Hey y'all, it's your captain for all things creative, coming at you with Real Housewives of New Jersey Season 14, Episode 2 review. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you are returning, we get into a lot of things. And we had to get into Jersey because, again, I think this is the last season where we're going to see both Teresa and Melissa. And after this episode and a Watch What Happens Live, I think this is Melissa's last season for sure. So let's get into the episode. So you see the taglines. First, you see Melissa saying, "It's hard not to burn bridges when you're on fire." And I kind of immediately thought, liar, liar, pants on fire. But on the flip side, I guess she's trying to use hot imagery. But I'm not that into this tagline. Again, I'm a little biased though, but I'm trying, y'all. Next, you see Dolores say, "I'm a girl from Patterson, playing Switzerland and dating an Irishman," which is a cute nod to her neutrality and diversifying her love bonds with Paulie. You see Danielle say, "I'm bougie, unbothered, and above your drama," which sounds like Danielle is bitter about being a puppet to Jen Aiden last year. She's trying to break free, but she's kind of sort of Melissa's puppet this season at the end, but I don't know. We should remember that she could have kept her mouth shut about Melissa's tea last season, but she decided to play herself trying to confront Melissa, even though Jen and them told her not to, even though they kind of fed it to her because they wanted to. So Danielle's just a rookie making rookie mistakes, and she do like drama, so this tagline is a flop. Margaret then says, "While taking your cheap shots, I'm taking screenshots." And I didn't really like that. It is her, though, but instead of focusing on her family and repairing her relationship with her kids, she's glorifying digging up dirt on people. And, like, based on last week's episode, she used to keep tabs on her kids through Jan. But now that Jan is gone, she has to face reality that, she's not going to be in her kids' life without a lot more effort to fix things with them. So this fixation on screenshots and keeping tabs on other people is weird to me, but go off, Marge. Next is Rachel's tagline, "If you don't have my back, at least have a backbone." And this looked like she's trying to establish size and take a stab at Jen Fessler for sure, and maybe also Jackie, but definitely from this episode it seems like a shot at Fessler. But she's calling somebody out for flip-flopping or being neutral. But she just, I'm sorry, she and her family look a little foolish this episode. Next, you see Jen Aiden's tagline. It says, "Friends are like handbags. The fake ones are all too easy to spot," meaning that she's also making judgments and staying away from the phonies. And I like this tagline. I think Jen ate. And it's the true bougie feeling that Danielle was trying but failed to have. And lastly, Queen Teresa. I'm biased, I'm sorry, but I got a soft spot for her. I don't know. Teresa says, "You could try to tear me down, but this tree just keeps on growing." And that's a nod to, her nickname Tree, but also the Tree Hugger fan base, I think, and Teresa's growth since, come on, she's like been trying to go to therapy with Louie, and she got girls that she's raising well. One finished law school and has a great law career, another one about to go off to college. You got to give it to Teresa. She's doing the big thing. So, the episode. So after you see a lot of little family scenes and like Jen Aiden's daughter being sassy, you see Danielle doing headshots with her kids since one of her daughters, I guess, is signed to an agency. And it was giving pushy stage mom a little bit since the baby was talking about how they were hungry and Danielle didn't have no snacks for them, but was giving her promises of food later. And she also says her brand is doing well, and she's also celebrating 6 years since her husband had brain surgery, so she's going to throw a celebration for him down to the Jersey Shore. And they're not inviting family, but just their friends, since we knew that her and her brother were beefing. But she's also apparently not talking to her father because she says that she didn't like how her father handled the gift, I guess, situation with her brother. And I'm kind of like, wrong road, Danielle. But at least she's letting her kids still talk to their grandfather, which is a little bit of a good sign that, the door's a little open and she's not being, completely, I guess, single-handedly responsible for like sabotaging her family. So next, you see Dolores trying to get back into her real estate bag since she says she used to flip houses, sorry, with Frank, and she wants to maintain her self-sufficient independence, which is fabulous. It's like Neo says, I love her because she got her own. And then Paulie said that at the birthday party, he was wondering why them Italians was getting so offended over his opinions, and he felt like breastfeeding them. And then he made more Jersey Shore jokes about shaving lines in his head since he and Dolores are gonna go to the party for Danielle and her husband. Next, you see Teresa and Louis talking about Louis' dad's sobriety, which is amazing, and I relate since I am sober myself. And they also talk about going to Danielle's husband's party. So at this point of the season, it seems like Danielle and Teresa are still cool, but she definitely tells Louis that she still doesn't see it for Marge, but she's not going to make a scene with Margaret down to the party, especially since there are legal matters involved that they can't hash out right now. But Margaret, apparently, according to Teresa, is about to look like a liar when the dust clears. So, in the past, Marge did have legal problems with Vineyard Vines over using their whale logo, and she lost that case and had to pay up. Plus, we all know that she left her first husband and has a bad relationship with her kids. So her track record in both the legal and the interpersonal matters has a lot of L's. So I'm already feeling like Teresa's probably right about whatever she's saying about Marge. Since I'm sorry, but Margaret's integrity is not given her track record. Next, Teresa also tears up and gets emotional over the moving trucks coming to take Gabrielle to college. And then Teresa's scene ends with her coach and Louis about paying their detractors dust down to the Jersey Shore and letting what they say go in one ear and out the other. Next, we see a kind of send-off birthday party for Melissa and Joe Gorga's daughter, Antonia. And they start off by keeping the party about Antonia, but they don't do that for long because Joe says that Melissa got pregnant 2 months into their marriage, so they still had to figure out how to be parents while they were figuring out how to be a couple, which was probably rough. Melissa then, to me, was acting like Teresa a little bit by using a pun wrong and saying that Antonio needs to explore her wild oats, while everyone else was like, no, the correct way to say that is sow your wild oats. And then they start crying about how Melissa's family embraces Joe. So they took the focus away from Antonio, which could have been a beautiful scene, to try to get sympathy about, Teresa being Joe's only living family member, but Joe not having family around since his only sister's not speaking to him, which again is sad in the overall sense of it, but we can't forget that Joe chose not to go to Teresa's wedding himself, even though he was invited. And before that, Joe was there for Gia, when she moved off to college and helped her move in. And he did have a chance, to keep that momentum going by going to the wedding. But again, he chose not to go. And even his nieces said that if he didn't come, they would cut him off. So their drama is both their faults. And him and Melissa want to play victim every chance they get, even down to Antonia's party, which should have been about her. I'm sorry. Next, you see Teresa doing the scene with Gia, and they briefly talk about her law journey before you see them splice this scenes of Danielle and Jen Aiden being at Teresa's house to do M sculpting so that their booties could look a little perkier for the Jersey Shore, and Marge and Melissa and Rachel Fuda playing pickleball down to the pickleball court. And they kind of go back and forth and in and out between these two scenes. So while you see Teresa and Jen Aiden and Danielle getting this sculpting to try to look more like BBL Drizzy and them. Marge and Rachel Fuda and Melissa are doing the pickleball event. And it's just interesting, the juxtaposition between Teresa's crew getting their butt muscles zapped into shape by a machine, while Marge and Melissa and them do like actual activity to get into shape. It's just funny to see the juxtaposition. And there's an even bigger juxtaposition with like the ops team taking sides while Teresa encourages Danielle to have her own mind. Let's get into it. So Rachel basically says that she has struggled with arthritis since she was 18. And she also had hips replaced, I guess, before college. And then Melissa said her family member just broke her wrist and chin when she fell holding her youngest child. But that relative will be at this Jersey Shore trip where Danielle is hosting her party for her husband, and Melissa says she's also going to host a birthday party for Joe. Melissa then, says they should stay at the same house. So I guess her and Marge are going to be all at Melissa and Joe's Jersey Shore house, at least for the birthday. And then Rachel says that Danielle and Jen Fessler are spending the night at her house. Then I'll just go into everything that they said, and I'll go into everything the other side said. Marge then asked Rachel about what rumors Teresa was saying about John Fuda, which was a calculated question since Jen, Aiden, and most importantly, John's ex-girlfriend are the ones that put the rumor out to the public. But of course, they want to blame everything on Teresa. And lo and behold, we see Rachel Fuda admit that John Fuda was selling drugs way back in the day when he was a teen. So Jen and Teresa's tea had truth to it, but she claims that it was just a weed arrest. But the ex-girlfriend claims that John was the one who introduced her to all manner of substances and her downward spiral of addiction and arrest. So the truth is somewhere in the middle of Rachel sugarcoating and an ex blaming John for her life being in shambles, since that ex had the agency not to take the drugs herself, even if she was offered them by John. Then Rachel gets to calling Teresa all sorts of disgusting criminals, but there is a big difference between Teresa having to do time as a punishment because of her husband's mortgage schemes or whatever financial schemes, and on the other hand, Fuda getting locked up for being the street pharmacist that they alleged that he was, and she's admitting that he was as well. So even though Joe Giudice's fraudulent actions were definitely wrong, I do see Teresa more as collateral damage, because I remember how domineering and disrespectful he was to her during the marriage. It was very much, I'm the head of the household, I'm the man. Even though she was trying to build her skinny Italian brand, she was a housewife, so I could definitely see, him signing all this paperwork and just telling her to sign, because he used to cheat on her, call her all sorts of B words, so it's a difference to me between Teresa going to jail behind Joe Giudice and his schemes versus John Fuda, who was actually arrested by law enforcement for selling illegal drugs. And if you think about it, like, if the ex's allegations are true about him selling more than weed, who knows what kinds of overdose deaths he might have facilitated by pushing that poison in his community. So again, if Teresa's disgusting trash, what does that make John Fuda, Rachel? You got to ask yourself that. So Rachel does not realize how foolish she sounds, saying all this mess about John, being so young, selling drugs. But again, she's trying to paint Teresa as this bad guy. and say that Teresa was a criminal who had no growth, even though, she's raising great girls, sending them off to college. She's doing therapy with Louis, and them two can't even deal with the ex-girlfriend doing these allegations again, because it's John Fuda's ex-girlfriend who's the true source of all the rumors and the smoke, since apparently her life is in shambles now, and where there's smoke there's usually fire. And then Marge calls herself, saying that Rachel's problem is that she left the gate open to Teresa and the bull came out again, even though John Fuda's ex is the real problem. But go off. And back with Teresa and the BBL Drizzy crew, Teresa says that, she won't tell Danielle who to be friends with, because, Danielle is trying to build a friendship with Rachel, and she's, inviting everybody to the party. And Rachel, Fuda, and Teresa are clearly beefing at this point. And I do, on the one hand, believe Teresa that she allows her friends to have other friends, because look at Dolores. Dolores is friends with everybody, and they are fine, But Dolores and Polly do always show loyalty, and they move in a way that Teresa's comfortable with. And Teresa is also famous for, calling out people for not having her back. So I do feel like Danielle has to move very carefully. As much as, Teresa says she's cool with Danielle being friends with whoever, Teresa is also not afraid to make an issue if she feels like, you doing too much with the ops, right? But then again, these are the two sides. I want to keep this picture up because it's a reaction to, Teresa and Louis and everybody showing up at Danielle's party. But before we get to the party, we get to the Jersey Shore. First, we see Marge and Melissa and Joe Gorga on the beach, looking like they are actually having a good time. Since Marge is glad that she's not finna be around Rachel Fuda's cheering, screaming, and whatnot in the night. And then Joe says that he does miss Bill Aiden. And Melissa says, well, she's not speaking to Jen's bestie, Teresa, so that relationship is not going nowhere. Next, we see the other op base where Jen Fessler and Rachel Fuda are talking about Fessler's birthday, and Teresa, of course, since they don't know what to do about John Fuda's drug rumor, so they just gonna blame it on Teresa. And then Rachel presses Fessler about being friends with Teresa. And Fessler kind of tries to stay neutral, but says that, everyone says mean things about everyone else, but she does not like to be mean herself. And she says that, Teresa and her have no personal problems. And that when, people are being mean to Teresa, Teresa fights back. So if somebody go low, Teresa go low too. So even though she does say, Teresa can be seen as fighting back dirty, again, she basically saying everybody mean in the group except her. And next, Danielle is seen arriving, and she says she's nervous to be in the middle of everything and whatnot. But we know that she's a drama queen, so she do love the drama on the low. So then we see everybody getting ready. And Jen Fessler catches the first stray of the night when she asks Rachel if her outfit looks too young. And Rachel genuinely cluelessly is like, young where? And Fessler's face cracked a little bit because y'all know we said last week she had been using Ozempic and she has, lost a lot of weight and all that. But side effects of Ozempic include Ozempic faces, like these kind of sallow cheeks, and losing weight fast does cause a little loose skin. So maybe up close, Rachel's reading her on those kinds of things. But overall, I think Jen Fessler's is good. So that was a little mean moment with Rachel that made me cackle that Jen was not expecting. So then at the other house, we see Joe Gorga gonna go on and take Margaret's blonde bob wig while the other girls get ready. And all I could think was, Joe is the housewife that Melissa thinks she is. And John is making Danielle and whoever else wants it a roadie so that they can drink and drive in the car. So I know I got relatives that are not comfortable with people even like drinking in their car. And he's not beating the street pharmacist allegations by handing out these roadie toes. But anyway, you see Teresa and her crew of Dolores and Jen Aiden toasting at the house. And when they get in the car, they get to talking about Lewis's dad's sobriety ceremony. And then in Melissa and Marge's car, they talk about how Joe will officiate a wedding ceremony for one of Melissa's relatives, and he practices. Then in the other op car with the fooders, Rachel talks about how fun Melissa was in Ireland. And Fessler talks about how she got sexually assaulted by Melissa when she grabbed her butt at the birthday party last week. So they're trying to convince us that Melissa's not boring. But at the house, they literally couldn't keep Teresa's name out their mouths when they were trying to get Fessler to turn against her. But then Danielle admits that she didn't invite Jackie to her party because of how mean Jackie was to her. So Danielle has beef with a person that Teresa will be cool with, on top of making friends with her ops, the Fuda. So the writing is on the wall with their friendship, since I think that Marge, Danielle, Melissa, and her Fuda posse are going to unite more against Teresa and Jackie and Fessler once the group hashes out how the Evan rumor was started by Marge and Gorga. Joe Gorga, did I say that right? This coffee needs to kick in. Later this season, according to Teresa's extra interview we talked about last week. And we know that Jen Aiden and Dolores are Team Tree too. So Teresa's circle's getting bigger slowly as, you know, the newbies wake up one by one. Then you see Danielle's party and the food looks good. And you see a girl named Dante Chanel, I guess, talking to Rachel Food. And I don't know if she's going to be a new friend of or not. But then we see Fessler catch the next stray bullet when Danielle throws shade about how Fessler's birthday party didn't have enough food in comparison to this one. And I believe them since the main thing I saw was candy. And even Teresa had a hard time getting that in her bag. But to be fair to Fessler, I think Marge was the one that planned the birthday party. But Fessler still made a face when Danielle and Melissa were making fun of the food. At the birthday, so at the end of the day, I think Fessler did have a say about what candy and food wasn't there behind the scene. Because, you know, this is all a show and it's filmed and there's call sheets. So it is what it is. And then next, we see the main cast. Louis, Teresa, Dolores, Paulie, and Jen Aiden arrive. And in this picture, you can see Marge and Melissa's face. They just look so motivated. They look uncomfortable and nervous. And then they cut to commercial. And then when the commercial break came back, Marge asked Jen, you know, where's Bill? And then Jen's shown giving another excuse as to why Bill Aiden is not there at this party. And he wasn't there at the birthday party last week. So I'm not making too many judgments, but I am starting to wonder if there's trouble in paradise or if business is just really booming with his surgery schedule for real. Because, you know, usually in past seasons, Bill Aiden would be there. He would turn up too, you know. And even Joe says he misses him. So hopefully we'll see what all is really going on with their marriage for sure, because Bill Aiden is not one to miss this many parties usually, you know. So then a live band from DC starts singing for Danielle and her husband and them. And while this is going down, Teresa catches Jen Fessler in a corner and asks what all she knows about the op meeting at Marge's house where there was plotting before the last reunion. So she wants to know about why she said that comment, y'all not following the plan. You know, because Teresa's like, what is the big plan? Why are these fools plotting against me again? So then Fester gets to spilling about how Marge told him that it will be a crap show down to the reunion when Teresa and Louie and them came at them with X so that they were supposed to come back to them with Y and Z. Then Fester gets to listen who all was there by saying that Jackie was there without Evan, Margaret and her Joe was there, she herself and her Jeff was there, and Melissa and Joe Gorga were there, along with the Fuda puppets. She said that they were preparing for Louis to have information on them since he had scared them with the Bodito threat. So she said Margaret dug up a recording of her son's phone call, but it wasn't even used. Fester also agreed with Teresa's extra interview and said that while she didn't say anything about following a plan, she did confront Fuda by telling him that he talked all this big game and called himself bringing the manila envelope, but it wasn't even opened or used because it was a stunt. She didn't say the stunt part, but I'm saying it was a stunt. Marge then gets nervous when she doesn't see all the ops assembled next to her. So she starts scrambling around John Fuda, asking, where everybody is. And he's like, oh, Rachel's probably in the bathroom. But Marge looks bothered still and gets a search in the party room instead of going to the bathroom like John Fuda told her, since she clearly doesn't really care about Rachel the puppet, but she is concerned about who Teresa is with and why Fester isn't up under their behinds. So then production microphones catch Melissa and Marge complaining to one another about Fessler going on and talking to Teresa. So, Marge is like, yeah, did you know Jen, where everybody is, and Melissa's like, she's talking to Teresa. And then Marge whispers, I know, since they're clearly bothered that anybody wants to be friends with Teresa, and they're trying to ostracize her. But Marge asks Melissa what she thinks of Fester talking to Teresa at the party. And Melissa's going to go and say that she thinks it's very weird. And then Margaret proves that she and Melissa are puppet masters of the new cast, when she responds to Melissa by acting like Fester and Teresa, are just going together out the blue, even though Fester told her that, she likes Teresa. And then Marge says, when Fester's full of cocktails, you never know what she's going to say. And then you hear Melissa do a loud sigh in her microphone. And they probably forgot that the mics were still on when they got caught out there hating on Fester having a mind of her own and Teresa attracting friends to her side. So then Fester says that she wants to talk to Teresa one-on-one more about the situation in the group, since apparently when Margaret heard that Louis called her son, she went hysterical and spilled a lot of mess that clearly even made Fester uncomfortable. And then Teresa swears on her kids that no such calls to Marge kids were made. And I believe her, since even Bo Dietl came out on an interview and denied what Louis was saying, Plus, I also thought that what was said about Bo Dietl was an empty threat that Louis made to scare the ops away, and it worked, Because Marge is spooked. And if she believed that Louis really did have all that dirt about them from Bo Dietl, then why is Marge scared about what Fester will say to Teresa about her people, instead of being worried about what Teresa and Bo Dietl allegedly could be saying to Fester about her and her people? So if you ask me, Marge and them look more guilty about what they're hiding and doing. So then Fester's seen a confessional saying that she's believing Teresa more and more, especially since, she asked Teresa about if she is saying that John Fuda is a drug dealer now, or if it was just the past. And Teresa says, no, obviously I think John is a great father now, but, it's a rumor out there that he was a drug dealer in the past, but he's a great guy now. So it's all a misunderstanding. And Fester's saying, oh yeah, because everybody thinks you're saying he's a drug dealer now, and that's a mistake. But Fester's being naive, since them Fudas know very well what the rumors are, and Teresa did not lie on them. But they want Teresa to be the bad guy, even though it's that ex that's the problem. And you can tell who are the happy people with their own minds, because production then shows Fester saying that she can't help but like Teresa, even if it makes her look like a traitor to the ops. We didn't see, Marge and Melissa, and especially the Fudas looking so sad while Fester and Teresa hug, while Teresa, tells Fester that she's awesome. And then John Fuda and Rachel are especially fuming when Fessler and her husband talks to Teresa and Louis. And then you see John Fuda try to ask a rhetorical question about, how do you feel about you being friends with someone who's defaming your character? And I was like, why are you talking about defamation of character when you know you was selling drugs and you got caught red-handed by the popo doing it? I don't get it. And then it ends with Rachel Fuda saying that she thought Fessler was her ride or die, but she's disappointed to see that Fessler is not the friend that she thought she would be. And I really think she's mad she invited Fessler to stay at her house. And I guess the Fudas thought that they could pay for Fessler's loyalty a little more with the Jersey Shore lodging and food. But it looks like Fessler's going to sleep in their room and eat up all their food and still be friends with Teresa too. So they either need to kick her out or just stay mad, because it seems like everybody rather be friends with Teresa. And with the Fudas, I know if I did something, I wouldn't drag out the process of having accountability like they're doing. They should have came out with their drug dealing story from Jump Street so that nobody could spray them with their own tea. But when it came out, the next best thing was to own it and explain why the girlfriend is saying this, and maybe try to confront the ex-girlfriend or make it right with her. But instead they're giving Teresa more shine by trying to beef with her over their truth and literally pushing Fessler and other fans to Teresa's side. Last, they show a preview for next week where apparently we see Gabriella get her tearful send-off to college, followed by us seeing Marge getting pissed off at both Jackie and Jen Fessler and argue with them for having minds of their own, basically, and going Team Teresa. So Marge and Melissa are not being the puppet master allegations with me anytime soon. On Watch What Happens Live, there's the picture. On Watch What Happens Live, you see Melissa being her puppet master self. This episode, it was mainly Marge, but Melissa got caught in the hot mic too. But on Watch What Happens Live, Melissa was talking about how she's not friends with Jackie, how Jackie's such a, flip-flopper or whatever. But the main thing that impressed me was Andy standing up for Teresa when Melissa tried to act like it was Danielle that started the New Jersey show. And Andy corrected her and was like, no, it was her and 4 other women that started the show, including Teresa. And I was like, oops, stop trying to erase Teresa, Melissa, because it's not going to happen. You're so forgettable in comparison to Teresa. Y'all could shine together, but if you're really trying to push Teresa out and outshine her, you're going to fail. So that's why I think Teresa's going to stay. But put what you think in the comments. Again, I know I'm biased. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be neutral. Help me be neutral if you want to be. Or if you agree with me, say so. Either way, remember, you're the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. Bye.